Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where I'm here with Mike Collins, the sugar-free man, the sugardetox.com man who does the 30-day challenges, which I highly recommend. And we have a 100-day challenge now, too, which is a wonderful way to work on getting off of sugar and flour and possibly caffeine. For me, it happens to be, yes, caffeine. I'm learning that. It only took me, 18 months, Mike?
You're not alone. We have other coaches.
But I have to say that I'm off of the caffeine now completely without going through headache or withdrawals or anything, because I did have it pretty minimal coming off.
Okay.
So yeah,
Good.
that's nice. And I do miss it. I do miss having a cup of coffee, even a cup of decaf coffee. And so this morning I had a tea and it was called Serenity Tea. It was made by Yogi, and Nikki had brought it down when she came to visit with me, our friend Nikki from our sugar addiction group.
Right.
And I was making the tea and I'm like, yeah, I gotta make this serenity tea, and drink this instead of the caffeine. But I have to say it was very, very good. And so anyway, we're going to be talking today about some borderline foods and about actions and behaviors and adulterating my plan to eat no sugar, no flour, and no caffeine. Because yesterday I ate off of my food plan and I did not eat any flour or sugar or any caffeine. And I thought, hey, I'm doing okay. But I managed to eat a bag of potato chips, which just had potatoes, avocado oil, and salt in it. And the serving was supposed to be for 6 servings. And I ate it in the car before I got home. And then I ate it for dinner. And then I ate it for football. Then I ate it for the Cubs game, which we won. Yay, Cubs. And so then by then I was done. I just finished it off, and that ended up being 112 carbs. And that was a lot of carbs. I did pay attention to that. And the kicker is that my ketones yesterday were 0.5 and starting to rise. So I was starting to get into a little bit of ketosis. And then I go and annihilate myself with potato chips and an apple with peanut butter on it. So those are considered some borderline foods for us, which are nuts, nut butters, fruit, grains, and dairy, and all the good stuff you like to say, right? But I have to say, I'm getting better at getting the dairy out of my system. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat cheese with my eggs anymore. They're not cheesy eggs. They're eggs with bacon in them. I do sometimes put a little bit of some sauteed onions and bell pepper with butter. And so those do have a little bit of carbs in them. So I'm still, minimize that stuff, but no dairy in there. So I guess the butter is a little bit of dairy. But yeah, so Mike and I were talking before we started taping about this food that I was eating. And then I was the one, woo, 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 that brought up that there were some feelings that were going on with me before I went into the store to buy some really great meat. By the way, I bought some great tri-tip that doesn't have any seasoning on it. So I'm going to be doing my own seasoning because all of the
Let
seasonings
me
have
clarify
sugar.
what happened, gang. For however long we've been doing this podcast, every time there was a relapse or anytime there was a fallback, it took like almost the whole podcast sometimes to drill down to find out what was going on in Cammy's life that she would eat something that she didn't want to. And this time in the pre-show here, she just brought it up. I was having a difficult conversation with someone, and it gave me a feeling. And so in the living in process construct, she, not that she told on herself, but she was aware that it wasn't just some craving for potato chips, And so that was amazing, really. That was a huge, huge leap forward, Yeah, I mean, seriously, it was. And I was honest enough to say that literally, sugar and flour free 35, 36 years, up till about a year ago, like that rationalization, we were talking about this rationalization of what we know is crazy talk, that potatoes, salt, and avocado oil can't possibly be bad for you. You know what I mean? And it's like this abstract kind of rationalization that we're able to give ourselves to so that we can ingest this stuff. And I was telling her about Richard Johnson, who is the world's premier fructose, well, one of them, him and Dr. Lustig, fructose expert, saying that the body makes its own fructose and the raw materials are starch and salt. And potato chips are perfect. So you're getting a little bit of fructose, and that's like amazing to know this. And then the apples and the thing, and we have another thing, someone's really kind of popular in our community that's her go-to, like the green apples and peanut butter. Right? And it's borderline foods, guys, is a concept where as you heal from I call it the hard stuff, the flours, the sugars, and caffeine, the powders, there are things that might one or some of them bother you. And it might be dried fruit, definitely dried fruit and fruit juices you can't do, but there's some high glycemic fruits that bother people. Nuts, definitely, they have a lot of fructose in them, and they're not even nuts, the cashews and stuff, dairy and grain. So yeah, I mean, I consider this a huge leap forward. So let's talk more about what we were talking about before, where we are becoming aware of the feelings that that are before the use of whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, before the craving comes,
Before the craving comes, and that they
which
are
is
part of
key.
the cravings. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's really important because when the cravings come, I don't like it when the cravings come because then this fight starts in my head about whether or not I'm going to eat this or whether or not I'm going to eat that, or am I going to sneak this? Am I going to sneak that? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm sick of that. I'm hopeful, I'm just praying I'm at the point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired and really ready to get in there and do the work. And so I had a conversation with somebody and I wrote down that it made me feel there was some frustration. I was feeling like life is not fair, and I was feeling I was really appreciating that I'm alone. It had to do with relationships and being with men. And these people are in relationships that I would choose not to be in because of the men that they're with. But the upside to that is that I have some integrity and feel good about who I spend my quality time with. The
Yeah.
downside is I'm lonely, sometimes. And that's okay. My mom used to say there's a lot worse things than being lonely. And it's really true because, you can be with some jerk who, is mistreating you, or you can, you know, but, the other thing too, though, by the way, is that relationships take time, energy, and effort. And, no relationship is, perfect 99% of the time. And so, some of me feels like I'm taking the easy way out, right? By not being involved in a relationship, but I'm
Yeah.
up to some other things at this time. So that's kind of on hold right now. But when I hung up the phone before I went into the store and even saw these chips, which only had 3 ingredients, right? And none of them were sugar or flour or caffeine. I was feeling a little bit inside. It always happens like in my solar plexus, like,
Okay.
right in my sternum. I can feel a little tightness there. And I'm so pleased because I am able to even put words to describe it. And when you first start trying to do all this work, for me, I did not even know what was going on. I couldn't feel it in my body. I couldn't describe what I was feeling if I thought I was feeling something. But as you do the work more and more and more, eventually you'll start to feel something. Some people get tension in their shoulders and their neck. Some people start to feel their heart race or they feel like kind of hot. But in me, it happens in my sternum and I feel a tightness there. And then if I pay attention to that, I can say, well, look, there's a tightness in my chest. And I just had this conversation. And what feelings am I having? Then I can put some words to the feelings. And this morning in one of my meetings, we were talking about that feelings wheel that you have, and it
Right.
has all the different emotions on it and stuff.
Yeah.
So it gives you some words. You can get your little feelings wheel and it gives you some words to describe what's going on there. And then addressing those would have been a better thing for me to do. The other thing is that once I have these feelings, I'm learning to talk to little Cammy. I'm learning to say, look, you're feeling like you're alone. You're feeling frustrated. You're feeling that life is not fair. And that's okay, little Cammy. Life just really isn't fair. And sometimes things happen that, aren't feeling like life is being generous or kind to you. And so you need to kind of, It's okay. You're going to be okay. Everything's fine. There's so many wonderful things going on in this world right now. Why don't we think about three things that we're grateful for right now? And it just feels like sounds so silly and frou-frou, but it really does help to do that because I have such a wonderful life right now. I have so many great things going on. And, this challenge of, no sugar, no flour, no caffeine is one of them. And to be thinking of it as, this wonderful, great thing that's going on, because before, when I was binge eating a lot, like twice a week or whatever, I wouldn't even be capable of doing what I'm doing now. So, I have to be able to appreciate that growth that I've had, even though it's not really showing up on the scale a lot yet. I got myself so metabolically sick. I think that might be a while in the process to get myself into some weight loss. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, pleased about my progress so far.
Look, I can't tell you how excited I am for where you are and the discoveries that you're making now. I think it's a combination of some good clean time and, what we were talking about earlier. I can't remember that phrase, but this ability to now feel in your body, not in your brain, not thinking it through, like in your body, like what's up, you said in your solar earlier, you said it was in your solar plexus and now you recognized it, but you weren't able to hold it back. And the chips were there and whatever, but you recognized it and it's there and you can get it next time. The difficult part is to, as you were saying, putting words to it, going out of your head and into your body. And so when these feelings arise, they predate the cravings, right? They're just before the cravings. And this is the linchpin. This is the work. This is the thing that I stress over and over and try and say. So I'm saying it in a different way because you said it one way, I'll say it another, so that people can understand that doesn't have to do with the potato chips or the green apple or anything else. It has to do with that you had a feeling that was a little disturbing. And instead of it just manifesting in cravings, you realize, maybe in hindsight, but you did realize that, and you told me first, that was the big part. We didn't have to take a whole podcast to figure out why, and until we got to it, you knew it, right? And you were aware of it. And it's that and I tell you that, like, that I told the story before, but you wanted me to repeat it. So about 30 some odd years ago, a therapist once gave me a feelings list, like a list of like 50 something things that I was supposed to be able to identify in my body and then explain a little bit, like rational thought and articulate words, where it was and what it felt like. And the only two that I could even understand were hungry and horny at the time. Because the ones that are like you talked about, frustrated, lonely, I didn't really feel those anywhere. I didn't, like, I might kind of thought about it, but I didn't really feel it. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
You got the two most important ones,
I got
though,
the most
eating for
the two.
survival and procreating.
So I was surviving. That was about right too, but I wasn't living the rich panorama that life can be the rich panorama of feelings that life can be. You know what I mean? And not that I'm even that much better, but it's so much different and so much better that I can feel like you felt like. And now, hopefully, with the work continued, when you feel those feelings in your solar plexus, and then the cravings follow, you're like, aha, now I know I don't need to use the potatoes. I don't need to do anything, right? I just need to go to yoga or call a friend or take a walk or something and start to recognize those feelings. And this is the golden key to the golden lock of this work, post abstinence, right? And the further you get into post abstinence, the less what do you call it? The less instant gratification, the less need. You'll have time to think it through. You'll say, you look at the potatoes, you'll read the salt, you'll read the ingredients. You're like, no, this is a reaction to that feeling of frustration and loneliness that you felt earlier. And that's the kind of progression that you figure out. So all power to you, all kudos to you. That's this is a huge evolution, a huge step.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. And, thank you for helping me get here. The other thing too is that I noticed that two things. I noticed that when my voice was talking to me, I remember thinking, I'm having some feelings about this conversation. I'm feeling that life isn't unfair. I'm feeling left out. I'm feeling lonely. And when that voice was saying that to me inside my head, it was a little bit more soothing and a little bit more calming of a voice that was coming through, as opposed to the voice that I have when I'm craving food, when it's like, oh, you can go and just eat one. This is not, sugar, flour, or caffeine. That voice that kind of starts to justify, like my justifying voice.
Bossy, right?
It's bossy. It's kind of harsh.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of almost like angry and frustrated, and it doesn't flow, the frequency of it feels lower.
That's a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I was very pleased about that, and the second thing I was gonna say was, the other thing that happened yesterday was that my ketones were point 0.5, and I had mentioned they were heading on their way up, and so, the other thing that I need to work on that I noticed through this whole process was that I am my own worst enemy still. I sabotage myself, and there's almost a feeling of fear, or a feeling of like I don't deserve, or like I'm not worthy of, low self esteem, all those kinds of things about, having my ketones go up and getting them to a point where I'm in ketosis.
Yeah. Well,
So,
we talked about this before, and it's a lot about. I was mentioning on a meeting the other night that there isn't, and you've seen this, I'm sure, that there is a inordinate amount of relapses in AA on days 360 to 364. People like they're about to go to another level where their chip goes from a poker chip to a metal chip, and you're like joining the ranks of people with a year or multiple years, right? And it's a little elevation status in your group, if you will, right? And people are afraid of it. They just melt down at that time. And this is the same thing as you get more success in anything, as an addict, you really do have to watch yourself. I've always said I need to be watched when things are going well. That's my go-to. I'm not. I'll get myself out of a jackpot of any kind. I mean, whatever. When things are going well, I need to be watched, because then I'm looking for some kind of chaos, because it's kind of like the devil I know. I want to return to that place. And you just have to fight it intellectually, you have to fight it emotionally with the feelings and stuff. And so it's really important part of the process. And that you're articulating that there's a worthiness component to it is the honesty, the self-honesty and vulnerability and transparency that is required to do this work, to get through it, because it's like, it's hard, like, why would I want to do something? Why would I want to sabotage good things in my life? Right? And again, counterintuitive intellectually, but emotionally, it's not so. And you have to keep working through it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to when, I'm not my own worst enemy. I don't know how long that's gonna take, because 'cause I've been my own worst enemy for many, many decades. But, just very always harsh and self-critical of myself. So, yeah, this is some exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, I've done the thing before, and it was weird because it came up yesterday in my sauna group, where it's basically the lead had just come from her therapist, and that they were talking about self-worth and enoughness, being enough, and just enough, just being enough, whatever. And I've said this in things. So when I first got sober many, many years ago, I would talk to myself 90% of the day. Like if someone else talked to me like, you idiot, why'd you do that? You're such a fuck up, whatever. And then I, like, 90% of the day, I would be denigrating and tough on myself and really harsh. And then over the decades, it's flipped. It's switched over to now, like, 85, 90% of the day, I speak very nicely, kindly to myself. I'm good to myself. I'm soft with myself. I'm encouraging of myself. But that last 10%, I said it yesterday, it's in like an order of magnitude more difficult than the work that took, and really you have to think about that. in, say 20 years in, I was only 50% of the way there. And that, and it kept working, kept refuting when I would say something like, why didn't you finish that project on time? You're such a slouch or whatever. I would stop myself and I would like, refute that I did it great. It was great. It's just, whatever. And that you have to keep doing. The sad part about this work, and that's what they call it, work, is that you have to keep doing that over and over and over until new patterns are built, right? New patterns are part of your life. It's just second nature, right? And now 90% of the time that is second nature. But I do want to tell you that last 10% is a son of a bitch. It's really hard. It's like ingrained, and you're like, you can't get to the why is this? Why am I still speaking to myself in a non-positive way? Right. So yeah, I mean, but it is the work. What we're describing is, as I said earlier, the linchpin of what we're doing here. Doesn't have anything to do with sugar or flour or food or like potato chips. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with post abstinence, this description of the conversation that we just had today. That's what it is, plain and simple. And, the 12 steps will do it in it if someone's really committed in an existential is not the right word, in a perfunctory way. They'll do it okay. You do a lot of the work in the steps. But I don't think it's enough, genuinely. I mean, I love that program, but I just don't think it's enough. I don't think there's enough emphasis on, other modalities that can help and whatever. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to shift gears really quick as we, are finishing up here or get to the end or whatever, about how I'm a little nervous and scared about what's coming, because like I am on day whatever, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. And always 2 to 3 weeks is when I want to go binge. And things feel better this time. Things feel stronger. I'm more connected to myself than ever before with all these feelings and, understanding where I'm coming from and being able to find them, because awareness of them is the beginning, right? To being able to change them and fix them. So, yeah, I'm just, concerned about the next, whatever,
No, that's
30
good.
years.
One of the things I think about, recoveries of all kinds is that there needs to be instilled or accepted maybe a healthy fear of the products or whatever your drug of choice was. And the bottom line here is that you're aware that that exists. You're not unconscious about it anymore. And then, intermittent rewards comes in. Okay. Two factors in this, like all addicts have a back door and they start ruminating about that back door. Right. And they have a time period sometimes, whether it's a month or a year, whatever. And, it's difficult to get through that, whatever your barrier is, a week, three, you just described it, 2 to 3 weeks. It could becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's like, as long as you're aware, as long as you're guarding your abstinence with other people, and just, I would say that in a meeting every day till it's 2 months from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just like tell on myself every day for 2 months that I'm going through this period. This has been a problem before. I don't want it to happen. There'll be other people that probably chime in about the same thing. And that's how it works. That's how you get through it, is to not cover it up, not bury it, not live it alone, because that will just intermittent rewards, Lustig's kind of thing. You can't fight that biology. If that's when you reward yourself for whatever reason, you thought you did good or whatever, doesn't matter. It's like you need that at that time. That's the whole slot machine thing, right? It's like it's a reward at a time that's different for everybody and different all the time, always different. Like your phone, like the buzzers and bells and links and everything on a phone is intermittent. It's like you can't ever tell when it's going to come. So you always say 2 to 3 weeks. It's, you don't know, floating out there. So you got to guard the whole time period. till you get to the other side.
Well, I mean, and the other possibility too is that it just doesn't come this time. It just doesn't come because I'm better equipped. I'm in a better place
And so you
emotionally,
have to guard
physically.
against what we talked about earlier when that doesn't happen. You have to guard against a pink cloud of sorts.
Yeah.
You have to guard against, oh, well, I've been 12 days and I didn't really connect the conversation and irritability yesterday with the potato chips. You don't, what was that phrase I use? I want to write
The
that down.
intellectual brain construct, is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. Like the brain construct where the feeling creates the thought that sounds rational to you at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like the feeling that you're not aware of creates the thought that that whatever you're going to use is acceptable or it's a good idea or whatever. And
So
so,
then when I have those thought when I have if I have that thought come up or when that thought comes up, I can backtrack back, and it's usually fairly recent too. It's usually, within the last couple of hours or whatever that something came up, so I can backtrack and say, "Okay, what was that? What was that conversation? What was happened?" Or sometimes it can maybe even be thoughts that I had about myself or something
yep,
that can irritate myself.
yep.
But try to, backtrack to find it before I move forward with, off plan eating or something.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like the potato chips are in your hand, you're reading the ingredients, you're like, "Wait, what was going on today or yesterday? What's going on with me?" And then put it back, go to the meat department, go to the seafood department. By that time, it will have passed and the feeling may have come up, you know? Just kind of practical day-to-day stuff as far as the amorphous kind of thought process, but just give it a little time, sit down if you're home and drink a glass of water and say, what's going on? And that usually works. That's usually enough, especially after different episodes of abstinence with you. You've healed up a lot physically, emotionally, dopamine receptor. A lot is healed up here. And so and as you go forward, you'll have more time. Like, you're like,
Right. Right.
and it will feel like it's not my food. What am I even thinking about? And then you'll go to the why did it come up?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So there's a positive, like it's a positive upward spiral of success.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All right. That sounds good to me. A positive upward spiral.
Of success.
And I'll probably be doing a video soon on my lab results because I did get my blood work drawn
Okay.
and it's been over a year. So we're going to see what my insulin's doing and what my lipids are doing and my triglyceride and my HDL, which I can never get high. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate you. Subscribe and comment, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.